Private industry has officially gone galactic.
2, 1, 0. And launch of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket as NASA turns to the private sector to resupply the International Space Station.
You heard him say it. Today's successful launch by Space Exploration Technologies, aka SpaceX, is the first commercial mission to the International Space Station. And if its Dragon spacecraft accomplishes its goals here, SpaceX, a private company, will be responsible for 12 missions to the ISS, and the United States will no longer have to rely on Russia to get cargo up there. And after, I'm sure, what was a collective holding of breaths there, SpaceX employees thrilled over this launch early this morning, really a milestone to proving that commercial businesses can, in fact, do space exploration. And my next guest, certainly banking on that as well, he is Richard Branson, founder of the Virgin Group, has also launched Virgin Galactic Space Line, which plans to provide 6 passenger flights to space. So, Mr. Branson, I don't know if you stayed up or woke up early to see this successful Falcon 9 launch, but from a private enterprise perspective, how exciting is this for you?
It's tremendously exciting, and huge kudos to Elon Musk and his whole team. They've done a fantastic job, and it now means that Virgin Galactic, as a private company, has had Spaceship One in space. You've had Elon, another commercial spaceship company, has had a successful, extremely successful launch. And it is the beginning of a whole new era of spaceship travel. So a very, very exciting time ahead, I think, for all of us.
You know, I covered the ending era of the space shuttles, the Atlantis launch last summer, and it just got me wondering how NASA felt this morning, right, seeing this SpaceX rocket launch. So here is the Administrator Charlie Bolden speaking about that just this morning. Take a listen.
Hopefully the stories you tell today and tomorrow and the weeks ahead will be stories about victory and triumph, because, the future will have some difficult times. But today, it's a time for the United States, for SpaceX and the NASA team to celebrate.
So they're celebrating. He's obviously hoping we'll have boot prints on Mars in our lifetime. My question to you, though, thinking ahead, is space tourism. And talk to me about Virgin Galactic. What is it? How many people do you hope, space tourists, to get into space?
Well, look, in the very first year of Virgin Galactic's operations, we should take more people into space than Russia and America combined have taken in the history of space travel. So, maybe 500 or 600 people in our first year. So, the great thing about the commercial sector doing this is we can do it for a fraction of the price that government-run companies have done it in the past. And that's obviously good for the American taxpayer, but also I think we've got wonderful, innovative people, a lot of people who used to work at NASA, who are dreaming big, and I think there's going to be tremendously exciting times for people who actually want to become astronauts, want to go to space, and there's going to be exciting times for deep space exploration.
How many people do you have on the list thus far?
We have about 550 people who've actually signed up and paid up to go into space, but that's at $200,000, so an expensive price. But over the years, that price will come down, and I think that both our grandchildren, I think, will definitely have the chance of becoming astronauts and going to space, and maybe even our children. So, so I think it is going to be very exciting. I mean, when you think that.
Sure.
That Russia and America have just not have not really been interested in you and me going into space, and I think with commercial spaceship companies that we realise that most people would actually like to go into space if they had the opportunity.
Of these 550 or so people, any names I might recognize?
There's lots of well-known people amongst them, like Stephen Hawkins, who. Who's always wanted to see more space exploration, wants us to colonize other planets. From his extreme to, say, Ashton Kutcher, myself, my children, lots of our friends. Anyway, lots of people who just love, I think, the opportunity to go up there.
What about, though, Richard, concerns? I mean, there has to be at some point a concern that private enterprise, they're stepping in, they're going to create a new kind of space race. People, wanting to get up there at any cost because there are multiple companies, right? Multiple private enterprise companies. What about the danger? Does that worry you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that SpaceX and Virgin Galactic are the two principal companies, I think, in this area, and we're not going to take unnecessary risks. I mean, obviously, if you're pioneering new technology, you have to accept that there are risks attached to that. But but I think the risks for us are far less than they were for NASA 60 years ago, where they had. Like, for instance, the re-entry was very risky with the NASA spaceship, with the Virgin Galactic spaceship. Our astronaut can be asleep when we come back into the Earth's atmosphere, but it doesn't matter which angle the spaceship hits the atmosphere. So I think technology has moved on, and it's a great deal safer today than it was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago.
And I suppose if people are, concerned about cost, this is private enterprise, and for the people who can afford that $200,000 ticket, they're the ones who fork over the money, despite the economy, despite other places perhaps that money could go to. While I have you, I just have to take a turn. I was reading your Twitter page earlier today, and you're tweeting up a storm about grabbing scissors and cutting people's neckties off. Sir, might I ask why?
I always find that sort of the tie and the suit is the most constricting thing a man has to wear. And women, you can dress as you feel comfortable. You look beautiful. Why should men all dress as clones? So I just think that I've never worn a tie. I find them like a noose around my neck. And so just as a joke, I said, get your scissors and cut them off.
Lesson learned, gentlemen. If you run into Richard Branson with scissors, walk the other way. Richard Branson, thank you so much. Hope you're enjoying your time there in the Virgin Islands. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.